Imagine a decision. A fork in the road so stark, so utterly insane, that it defies all logic. On one path, a guaranteed $1 billion. A number so vast, so life-changing, it screams financial freedom, security, triumph. On the other? A gamble. A roll of the dice into the digital abyss, with no promise, no safety net, just the faint whisper of something more. Most would take the billion. Most would cash out, secure their legacy, and disappear into the sunset of unimaginable wealth. But some don't. Some look that guaranteed fortune in the eye, and they say no. They walked away from $1 billion. And then, just 18 months later, they sold their company for 19 times that amount. A $19 billion acquisition that sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley and rewrote the playbook for digital startups. This is not just a story of success, it's a brutal testament to vision, defiance, and the terrifying calculus of ambition. This is the story of Instagram. Before the billions, before the filters, before the global phenomenon, there was Burbn. A clunky, location-based check-in app. A forgettable digital relic in an era bursting with forgettable digital relics. Its creator, Kevin Systrom, a Stanford graduate with a stint at Google, was chasing an idea. Not the idea, but an idea. He worked out of a shared co-working space, the kind where the coffee was perpetually lukewarm and the dreams of grandeur felt constantly ridiculed by the buzzing fluorescent lights. The early days were a grind. Bank accounts teetered near zero. The aha moment was nowhere in sight. Systrom and his co-founder, Mike Krieger, met with venture capitalists, their pitches falling flat, their vision, or lack thereof, failing to ignite any interest. They were just another pair of hopefuls in a city overflowing with them. The narrative was simple: build an app, get users, sell it. But Burbn wasn't getting users. It was a digital ghost town. A sprawling, complicated mess of features that no one really wanted. They were at a precipice. The kind of precipice where most startups tumble into oblivion. The question wasn't if they would succeed, it was if they would even survive the month. But within this failure, a tiny seed was germinating. A seed watered by frustration, late-night coding sessions, and the realization that complexity was the enemy. The pivot wasn't a grand strategy session in a boardroom. It was a walk. A walk on a Mexican beach, according to lore, between Systrom and his then-girlfriend. She complained about the quality of her mobile phone photos, particularly when compared to those taken with Systrom's vintage camera. "I wish," she said, "there was a way to make my photos look better." That simple observation, dismissed by many, resonated with Systrom. He saw the burgeoning power of smartphone cameras, still nascent, still imperfect. He saw a problem, bad mobile photos, and a nascent desire to share beautiful moments. He returned to Krieger, not with a new feature for Burbn, but with a radical proposition: gut the entire app. Strip it bare. Burn it to the ground. And from the ashes, build one thing, and one thing only: a photo-sharing app with filters. The decision was terrifying. They were throwing away months, perhaps years, of work. They were betting everything on a single, focused idea. Many advised against it. Too simple, not enough features, it will never scale. But Systrom and Krieger had seen the data. The only part of Burbn that even remotely engaged users was its photo-sharing function. They weren't just simplifying, they were amplifying the only thing that worked. They chose the name Instagram, a portmanteau of instant camera and telegram. It was sleek, memorable, and hinted at the immediacy they sought. When they launched on October 6, 2010, the response was instantaneous. The growth was unprecedented. 1 million users in 2 months. 10 million in a year. The numbers were staggering, almost unbelievable. They had hit a nerve, tapped into a fundamental human desire to connect visually, to curate personal narratives. Instagram wasn't just an app, it was a cultural phenomenon. This meteoric rise, however, did not go unnoticed. Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook, watched with a growing, almost predatory, interest. Facebook, the undisputed king of social media, saw Instagram as both a potential threat and an invaluable asset. And so, the offer came. A staggering, almost unthinkable, $1 billion. In cash and stock. $1 billion. For a company barely a year and a half old, with only 13 employees. The pressure on Systrom and Creator must have been immense. The safe bet. The legacy cemented. The generational wealth secured. Imagine the sleepless nights, the arguments, the moral quandaries. This wasn't just about money, it was about the very soul of their creation. The fear of being swallowed whole by a tech giant versus the fear of squandering an unprecedented opportunity. But a curious thing happened. Systrom and Creator hesitated. They didn't jump. They saw Instagram as more than just a feature to be absorbed by Facebook. They saw its independent future, its unique identity. They knew their company was worth more, both financially and culturally. It was the ultimate test of conviction. To look $1 billion in the face and say, not yet. That not yet proved to be one of the most audacious, and ultimately brilliant, gambles in Silicon Valley history. Within weeks of that initial offer, Facebook's IPO was looming. Zuckerberg, realizing the existential threat and the immense value Instagram represented, upped the ante. Dramatically. On April 9, 2012, Facebook announced its acquisition of Instagram for approximately $1 billion. But here's the crucial detail, it was paid primarily in Facebook stock. And in the volatile weeks leading up to Facebook's IPO, the value of that stock surged. By the time the deal closed, Instagram's true acquisition price had ballooned to closer to $19 billion. From a struggling app to a $1 billion offer rejected, to a $19 billion payout, all in less than 2 years. Today, Instagram boasts over 2 billion active users worldwide. It is a dominant force in social media, a cultural touchstone, and an undeniable testament to the power of focus, timing, and unshakable conviction. Systrom and Creator's decision to walk away from $1 billion wasn't reckless, it was strategic. It was a calculated bet on their own vision, on the untapped potential of their creation.